Hello, everybody. My name is Reggie Gackett, and I want to welcome you to the fourth webinar in our 2019 Fall Family Webinar Series. I am the Assistant Director in the First Year Center, and tonight I am joined by my colleague, Mark Smith, Associate Vice Chancellor and Dean of Career Services. We are excited that you have chosen to join us for tonight's conversation. Some information before we get started. First, you will notice that we have given you the ability to submit messages to us during this webinar using the chat function. Please use this feature to ask us questions. These questions will be only seen by staff in the First Year Center and our panelist, Mark. Two of our professional staff within the First Year Center are helping to field these questions. We will answer those we find applicable to the audience as a whole on this webinar, and we'll respond to more nuanced or personal questions via email next week. Let's go ahead and make sure you know how to use the chat feature. Send us a chat with the location you're watching from, and we'll name a few of these locations on air. While you do that, this webinar is being recorded live. Next week, we will upload this webinar to families.woostel.edu website. Lastly, in a moment, we will hear from our panelists about the Career Center at Washington University. If something our panelist says sparks a question, don't forget to chat us. After hearing from our panelists, we'll move into the Q&A portion of the evening. Before passing things along to Mark, I want to share some of the places people are joining us in from. We have families tuning in from St. Louis, Missouri, Baltimore, Maryland, and New York City, among other places. Now, since I know you all want to hear more about the Career Center on campus, I will turn things over to Mark.
Great. So I've got a PowerPoint, and for those of you who've come to my orientation program or my parents program, some of this will look a little familiar. I'll try and move through it pretty quickly so we can save plenty of room for questions and everything. So, you know, our big picture goals, we want to know your kids by name and story. We want them early engagement with the Career Center and regularly engage with us. And we want them to prepare them so they're set by graduation. And, you know, we have data on our website that you can look at. Students are typically, we're well over 90% set every year. Typically, the remaining few percentage points, many of them we just can't get in contact with. We continue to service your students after they graduate, and we always want to help. But you can go in that function and even see breakdowns by majors or by schools, so it's very helpful. Some of the services, we have a whole bunch of advisors. With a lot of different kinds of expertise, everything from kind of counseling backgrounds to more specific industry backgrounds. So we have a licensed architect, an engineer. Jim Burney in our office ran the Wharton MBA Career Center for about 10 years, is very knowledgeable about the business. So I do pre-law advising. So we've got expertise. We've got a couple of MDs for the students who are thinking about medical school. We have our core is individual advising, and we do kind of the basic things you would expect, helping with resumes, helping do mock interviews, including technical interviews. We also do grad school, pre-professional school advising. One of the services are little ways to engage with your students are through career interest groups. They're based on kind of outcomes, what students might want to do after graduation. So for example, maybe your student is interested in government and public policy. That's a very active group. Or they're interested in sustainability, or they're thinking about law school and they can join that group. They're not making any kind of commitment. It's just a great way to get information on a regular basis. Some of them have meetings. Like the pre-law one I'm part of, they get a weekly email, and then there's a bunch of resources. We also have a group for students who don't know yet what they want to do. We call that the Explorers Group. We do a number of events. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but one that I assume we've got some parents of first-year students here, Career Early Action. It's a program I do for the students, basically talking to them about how to use their winter break, how to network, how to go about kind of trying to start looking for an internship. You know, frankly, it's tough for first-year students to find an internship, but it's not impossible. And I want them going through the process so they kind of learn from it so they're better next year. I'm going to be doing that 3 more times, I think next week. And your student will know about it, but you might ask them. Another thing I forgot to mention on that is a Management 200 class. This is a class for students who, it's co-taught by the Career Center and the Business School, and they learn both kind of career techniques, but also some basic business ideas like how to read a financial document, how to make decisions with quantitative data, how to do business communications, that kind of stuff. Okay, and we have a lot of networking opportunities, including internal peer-to-peer. There's Success Stories, which has about 1,800 profiles from current students and recent grads who talk about what they did over the summer or post-grad, and they'll talk about, what they did, what kind of questions they got asked, how they found it, and students can search it by major, by geography, or by a term like writing to find out. We do a lot with alumni networking. We just did a bunch of events this fall where we would bring in folks from alumni and development and the parents program to meet with students who are interested in these cities. We do that every year. So might be something for your student to look for next year. We do a lot of partnering with other folks on campus. The Weston Career Center is at the business school. Business school students are welcome to use our Career Center, and we did, I think, over 1,000 appointments with business school students last year. And we have, just so in case you're concerned, we have one database of jobs. So all jobs are open to all WashU students, unless the employer says, oh, I'm just looking for a mechanical engineer or an accounting major or something like that. But we work closely with the academic departments. So I have folks assigned, like, for example, down at Sam Fox, I have an architect and an art person down there who, while all students can come see them, they're working closely with folks in those schools. Scandalaris Center, which provides more entrepreneurial type opportunities. Gephardt Institute, we work closely with all those areas. A lot of employer engagement, typical stuff, career fairs, on-campus interviews, but some more interesting things. So road shows, we've got those coming up over winter break. And what those are, we did some over fall break as well. We do them every year. And we'll take a group of students, say, to DC to visit government and public policy places. Or we'll take a number of students to Silicon Valley to visit high tech. We're doing a aerospace one down in LA, and I think we're going to SpaceX among some other employers. If your student doesn't have the funding to make that happen, they're on financial aid, I have some funding to help with that. We also have just thousands of unique employers posting on our CareerLink. That is our database of jobs. And they're looking specifically for WashU students. This is what I would say. Have your student get started early. So, the semester is coming to an end. They're going to have exams and they're going to be pretty busy, but they'll have some downtime before they, in between exams typically. Set up an appointment. That'd be a great time to just get started. Over winter break, maybe they don't have time before they go home. We're still here. We could set up a Skype appointment or do a phone call. That's very doable. What I want them doing is having multiple meaningful experiences during their time here. And that may be some things during the school year, but definitely some things over the summer. So maybe as a first year, your student says, well, I want to go back and work at the summer camp where I worked last year. That's fine, but maybe they tack on at the end of the summer some volunteer work with a campaign or with a museum or something, so they get some skills and experience that they can talk about later. And I want them coming to our programming. I think a lot of times students don't know what skills, it's very often, you know how these kids are. And I have a first year student here at WashU, and I have two other kids at other colleges, and they're like, they don't know how bright and hardworking what they've got to offer, and helping them realize you have real great writing skills, that you're really good with people. You're very good at sales. Helping them think about that, helping them think about what are some of the options that are out there in terms of jobs. Students know maybe 3 or 4 jobs. They maybe know what their parents do. They think they know what a doctor does. They think they know what a lawyer does. Maybe they think they know what a college professor does, but that's about it. And there's lots of people doing other things, and helping them talk about that, maybe encouraging them to talk to your colleagues or the parents of their friends or the parents of their friends here at WashU about what they do in their work. I think that's really critical. Getting them out there and engaged with folks outside of WashU. to say, what do you do? What do you like about your job? What's a typical day like? Those are great kinds of questions. And that's one of the things, I mean, that's the core of what I'm covering in that career early action program I was talking about before. How to set those meetings up, what to say in them, how to handle the whole situation. Encouraging, this is your your children have not failed. They've been very successful. And there's a lot of rejection in the career process, and encouraging and letting them know maybe about your own experiences in your 20s and teens and how it was kind of rough for you as well. Emphasizing summer experiences, and just to the extent you can activate your network and encourage them. So yeah, why don't we go to questions then?
Mark, thank you so much for sharing all of that insightful
Sure.
information. While hearing you speak, I wanted to ask an initial question that I think many family members may be wondering. What are some of the benefits that you would describe of early and regular engagement with the Career Center?
We've actually done some quantitative analysis, and the earlier you come in and the more you engage, actually there's a bell curve. There's a point where after a certain amount of engagement, your yield starts to decline, because I think we're very nice people to talk to, and what they should be going out is talking to people out in the industry and stuff, and some students are a little afraid of that. But the earlier they get in and the more they engage, the more likely they are to be set at graduation, and the more likely they are to start kind of figuring out where they want to go.
Great, thank you so much. We will now be moving into the question and answer portion of the webinar. So for our first question, do you find that studying abroad helps a student find a job after graduation?
I mean, I think it's a great experience to have. They get a lot out of it. They grow out of it. I mean, there are some challenges with it. You're away from school for a while. You're not able to interact with employers as much. But I mean, school's about more than just getting a job. And my children did study abroad. I think my first year student, she'll do study abroad. I think it's a great experience. I wish I could do study abroad for a semester. Wouldn't that be great?
Do students have assigned career advisors?
They do not. We tried that, and it didn't work as well, because students' interests change, because somebody comes in maybe pre-med, and then they decide, no, now I think I want to do consulting. So they can come to any advisor, and they can come to multiple advisors, and we're fine with that.
Thank you. How can students communicate the skill sets that they gained as a student leader? Yeah. Some of them being our Washington University student associates or our resident advisors on their resume or during the job search process?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That's one of the things we definitely help them with, because the students don't get the skills and experiences they have from these things. So they can come in anytime without an appointment and just meet with one of our career peers who's a very trained upper class student who can help with that. But like, if a student came in to me, I would say, okay, let's think about this interview you got to go to. Let's think about what the employer wants. They want smart, they want hardworking, they want maybe great writing skills, they want attention to detail, and some other stuff. And let's think about, we can't just tell them we're smart, we got to show them. So how are we going to prove that? And so maybe one of the hardworking things is we'll say, I'm doing really well at WashU. I've been on the dean's list, and I'm particularly proud of my academic achievements because I'm an RA. As an RA, I typically spend, probably 5 to 10 hours a week. But there was a couple of weeks where I had some students and I ended up spending like 30, 35 hours. And I think that's something I can bring to this employer, that I'm used to juggling a couple of balls in the air at the same time. I can multitask a couple of things. I'm used to hard work. I mean, that's what employers love to hear. And helping the students figure out how to translate this experience, not just saying I'm an RA, but why is that important to an employer? And once again, I think as parents could help their students understand what employers want. This is, I think, a big shift for students. Up to this point in their life, everything is about them. In grade school, in high school, in college, are you having a good experience? Are you learning? Are you getting out of this? And then they go to the work world, which is, it's not about you. We don't care if you're having a good experience. We care, Reggie, are you working hard for WashU? Yeah. Are you getting done what I need you to get done? And that's what my boss cares about me in terms of, am I getting the job done? And so getting them to shift their thinking and think about the employer a little bit more.
Thank you. Can you all in the Career Center help students get internships starting their first year?
Sure. Like I said, it's tough because they're competing against sophomores and juniors, but we have lots of first-year students who get internships. What's more, and I don't want parents to get hung up on this concept of an internship, because we want a meaningful summer experience. So maybe that means, like I said, the kid wants to work. They need to make some money, so they're working, 40 hours a week doing whatever they do for money. But then they're volunteering, doing public relations for a local museum or a political campaign. So then they can sell that the next year as, well, last summer I worked 2 jobs, so they show the hard work. This one was just for money. I wasn't doing anything as interesting, but at my volunteer position, I was helping doing writing. And so they can start talking about the skills they used and putting them in experience. Plus, it gives the student an opportunity to try out this in a particular setting and find out, yeah, I do like this, or no, this is not exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you to send your kids in and we'll help them. But it's not like I've got a drawer where I can just say, here's your internship. I don't have that kind of juice. I don't think most of us do.
You touched a little bit on this earlier. Could you describe the road trip experience and how students benefit from it?
Yeah, so it's not a road trip. I wish it was a road trip. That sounds like a lot of fun, but it's a road show.
Yeah.
So what we do, so I've gone on the Silicon Valley one. I went on one in New York. So the Silicon Valley one, we rent a big bus. We meet the kids at a certain pickup point, usually at a hotel. And then we'll go over the course of a couple days to like 10 employers. So on the one I was on, we went to Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Box, Jawbone, a bunch of other hipster, technology companies. We go in, typically we get a little dog and pony show from some WashU alums and from the HR folks. So it's a nice way for the students to learn a little bit about the company, make some connections in there. Also, maybe the kids from Cincinnati and has never been to the Bay Area to say, yeah, this looks pretty cool. I could see myself living here, or this is not the environment for me. So like I said, we'll do 15 of these a year. We also do like what we call mini road shows here in St. Louis, where it would just be like a Friday afternoon and we'd go to one employer or something.
Great, thank you. What should students do to get connected to the Alumni Network?
Well, first thing, and I kind of jumped over this in one of my slides, but LinkedIn is great. And so LinkedIn is table stakes. You got to have a LinkedIn page. And then once you get a LinkedIn page, you can do searches on it. So you could do a search for WashU alumni in Boston who doing something with environmental, and it will pop up alums. And that's a great way to connect with alums. We also have other events. So for example, we just had, it was during Parents Weekend, we had a networking reception where we had our Alumni Board of Governors, about 60 or 70 of them. We invited a bunch of students. We got about 60 or 70 students to show up. I think on these road shows, we're doing often networking receptions with alums and current students. Oftentimes those are open to all students. But students are, this is something that I didn't get until my kids started getting in college. The students will say, yeah, I get that. And sure, I'll do it. But it's really scary for them to do it. And so part of what I do in my networking talk is talking about how do you introduce yourself to somebody? How do you draw them out? How do you make that connection that can then help you later on in terms of a job? But it's more about just kind of learning, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of LinkedIn, a little bit earlier, what are your thoughts on social media during the job search?
Well, I mean, there are more and more companies that have like Twitter pages and stuff like that. So that's all good. Here's the thing, and now I'm going to be like Debbie Downer. I worry about some kids' social media presence hurting them. So, I mean, I think our students are smart enough to know that they're not supposed to put a picture of themselves with a bong on Facebook, although they're not really on Facebook anymore. But where I see it becoming an issue is sometimes students will do like videos or other things that are kind of funny, but they're kind of cutting edge, borderline offensive, funny. And that, I mean, employers are looking at this stuff and it can hurt them. So I think this is something parents could do is, talk to their kid about, your kids are going to be like my kids. They're not going to tell you anything, but just kind of reminding them, hey, even though we're old, we still know how to use social media. We know how to find it, or we'll get somebody young to do it for us. Make sure your presence is appropriate.
Yeah. Can first-year students apply for the Alumni Shadowing and Networking Program?
Yeah, actually, we're right in the middle of that, I think. Here, I've got a thing, let me look. Applications due December 6th, and that is completely open to first-year students. So it's a career shadowing that occurs over spring break, and with lots of different, so everyone from like John Feldheimer, who's an alum and is the CEO of Lionsgate Film. I don't know that you really shadow him for 2 days. I think you shadow one of his vice presidents or something, and then maybe he takes you to lunch or something. But still, you're in that industry. And then, like, I know the head of legal services here in Missouri takes, and students have done that, have loved that.
Yeah.
So lots of great opportunities.
How many career fairs are there?
Well, we have quite a few. We have like variations on career fairs. So there's a big spring one and a big fall one. We also do one in New York with some other schools that occurs over winter break. And then we did like the engineering spotlight, which brought in about 50 employers. We also did a sustainability event. We're doing something for the humanities where it's kind of a cross between a career fair, kind of meet different people. So people who have humanities backgrounds coming in and talking about their careers, and an opportunity just, you know, what I've come to realize is that I think the biggest step for students is getting them engaged with people outside the university. That's the key. You got to get them to take that and start talking to people. And once they do, I mean, the first couple of times it can be frustrating for them because they're saying, well, you know, there's an hour of my life I never get back. He didn't give me an internship, but that's not what it's about. It's about making those connections, getting comfortable. And then over time, you know, it happens.
How many job applications do graduating students typically submit?
So I'm gonna, you know, I'm a lawyer, so I like to redefine everything. Job applications, that's one way, and that's what your kids want to do. They want to apply online and not have to talk to a lot of people. You know, if I were saying to a first-year student how to allocate their time, I'd say spend maybe 25% of your time looking for applications and applying. That would be things like CareerLink, maybe idealist.com, maybe go on looking in your local area for the kinds of organizations that do what you're interested in, applying to them. But then I'd spend 75% of my time networking. That's how most kids are going to find things. And, you know, employers will create opportunities all the time. We have a stipend program for students who have financial need, and even students without financial need. I can give them a small amount to just like $1,000 or less, but it could allow them to do it with the employer, and they'll, you know, they'll say, well, this kid looks great, he's interested, let's see what we can do for him. So so I don't really have a way of knowing how many applications they send in because they don't all go through us.
Do you have support for students who are interested in working internationally after graduation?
We do. It's tougher, you know, but we have students doing it every year. And I think, you know, it's going to be the same kind of process, networking with people who are doing that. We'll have, you know, I would start with alums in that particular geographic area or country. Obviously, there are always governmental issues, you know, so as we all know, it's become much more difficult for students from other countries to work in the United States. Our government has made it more difficult. We still work with them, and there's still opportunities, and similarly, other governments sometimes make it difficult for our students to work there.
So you all do quite a bit of amazing things. Do you post recordings or handouts of special events, such as the networking talk, online for students who may have missed it?
You know, we have done that, and but I think I'm going to do more of it. And actually, this is a nice little setup here. I think we might do this in the Career Center. Just like we'll talk to each other and try and get that out. I mean, if parents think this is helpful, we could do it for the parents and we could do it for students. I mean, the one thing I would say, you know, students really listen to the parents a lot, and you know, I'm always thrilled to be able to talk to parents because I know you're going to talk to your kids, and even though it feels like they're not listening, they are listening. I mean, I hear that from the kids. So, so parents who are out there, keep nagging your kids about the Career Center.
How can families get involved in the Career Center?
Well, if you have positions, we're always looking for positions, particularly paid positions. I think, you know, letting us know that you're willing to help and talk to students. You know, part of it is you're typically it's pretty specific. And so sometimes a parent may come forward and they're doing something really cool, but right then I don't have any students who are looking for that, or I don't know of any students, but we'll try and make matches. Um, you know, we're always, parents have been the folks who have funded our stipend program. We've had some very, very generous parents who've done this, and it's a great opportunity. I was a first generation college student. Um, I worked my first summer in a factory because I needed to make money. My second year, I got a stipend from my college and was able to work a real kind of internship, and it was life-changing for me. And I just want to make sure all kids have the same opportunities here.
Thank you. How does the Career Center help students who are applying to graduate school?
Yeah, so we are, we do that as well. So I'm part of the, for example, I'm part of the pre-law advising team, which is for the students who want to go to law school. I have, I think, 4 folks in the Career Center who are part of the much larger pre-med, I think we're pre-health advising team, including 2 physicians who work in my office. And so they know how to advise on all that stuff. We also have, if your student is interested in a PhD program, they can come into the Career Center. What I would ultimately advise is if they want to get a PhD in history, they should be talking to faculty in the history department. But we can kind of talk about the approach to the faculty member, you know, more about what they might be interested in. And then there's lots of other, you know, MSW, a Master in Public Policy, and I've got 2 MSWs in the office. We have other folks like that too.
Great, thank you. What services does your office offer that differ from the services offered by the Weston Career Center for students in Olin Business School?
I mean, we're basically kind of doing the same thing. We probably, like, I do career early action. They don't do that, but, you know, they're all welcome to come. We do some road shows, but it's open to all the business school students. It's just kind of more of the same, really.
You mentioned the stipend program earlier. What
Yeah.
exactly is the stipend program and how can students apply for it?
Great. Okay, so last year, so this was something I started about 15 years ago when I came over to work with the undergrads. I'm very proud of it. We started, I think the first year we gave out about 60,000. Last year we gave out over $300,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and if the student has financial need, we can give them up to $3,000. I mean, I look at, how many hours a week are you working, whether you're in town or out of town, but we're usually pretty generous with that. And then if a student has no financial need, they're not applying, we can still give them $1,000. Some employers sometimes will say, we can't give you this unpaid internship unless you can prove to me that you're either getting credit, which we can do as well, or you're getting some kind of stipend. So it helps with that.
Great. Can a student walk in or should they make an appointment? How would you suggest that they connect with you?
And
all?
just following up on the stipend, one thing I forgot to talk about how to apply. It's all on our website.
Okay.
Just look for it. Applications. I think we'll start collecting applications in January. They need to have an offer, an offer letter or an email. And then there are 2 application deadlines and we make decisions at 2 different times. Okay, so walk in or should they make an appointment? They can come in any day from 10 to 5 without an appointment to meet with one of the career peers. And that's great for, say, could you show me how to use CareerLink? That's the database of jobs. Or I need somebody to look at my resume, or I need to get started on a resume, or something like that. If they want to come in to see someone like me or one of the other counselors, they should make an appointment. They can do that on our website. And everyone's a little different. Most of my counselors, you can schedule right there online. Like me, you got to go through my assistant. You can also call the front desk.
Great. How can students effectively use the university's job database, so CareerLink?
Yeah, so what I might do is come in and meet with one of the career pairs, and they could show you the little tricks about how to do searches, how to set up auto searches. But that's just one place. And like I said, I don't want students just focused on that. I also want them networking, and then I want them, not all employers come to us, but we have employers who are hiring our students from all over the world and all over the country. We can't possibly capture all of those.
Can you clarify for some of our families to clarify, for some of our families, Olin Business School does have their own career
Yeah, right.
center.
Yeah, so the way it works is, so the engineering school and um, Sam Fox, art and architecture, and then arts and sciences, and the business school are all served. We serve everyone in the Career Center. I mean, there are law students that'll sometimes come over to talk to me because they know I'm a lawyer and they know I used to work at the law school. They have their own separate thing. I think, you know, the business school, besides their undergrads, they also have a very large master's program with about 600 students, and then they have their MBA program, which is a few hundred. So they're doing a lot with that, but students can use that, but typically we have the expertise. So Jim Burney, the guy who ran the Orton MBA Career Center, ran the Weston Career Center for like 5 or 6 years, and then he came over to work with us. So we have all the expertise. And like I said, there's just one database of jobs.
Great. What does the Career Center do to help students prepare for interviews?
Yeah, so we do mock interviews, and that's everything from, you know, just a generic mock interview to, we also do tech interviews. So a lot of the technology, the comp sci students will have to do a tech interview. And so we have folks who can do that with them to kind of go through a problem, show them how they might, we do behavioral interviews, we do case interviews. So for consulting, that's a big thing, case interviews. And so we have a number of people in the Career Center who can help with that. Med schools do mock interviews, and they do something, this is not my area of expertise, but it's called the MMI. I forgot what that stands for, but I think basically they throw like 4 or 5 people at you at the same time, and it's like a free-for-all. And we have people in the Career Center that can kind of help your students get ready for that and prepare for that. So we do all that kind of stuff.
Great. Does the Career Center have specialized advice or programs based on what year the student is in? So for example, a first-year student versus a sophomore.
Or something. Yeah. So I wouldn't, the advice is going to be kind of tailored to where your student is. I mean, some sophomores are very advanced. They've already had an internship. They know what they're doing. And some juniors are still trying to figure it all out. And that's, so we can adjust to that. Also, we have a database. So when your student comes in to see me, if they've come in to see me before, I can see that. When they'll come into my office, or they'll come into the Career Center, they'll swipe in. I'll get an email that shows me their last advising appointments. So I know a little bit about their background. I have a good sense of where they are. We also have an algorithm that kind of predicts whether they'll be set at graduation or not. And it shows me that number. It's a number from 0 to 10. So I kind of know where they are on the journey, so I can kind of adjust things. But we also have programs that are focused more for first and second year students. We have a program that's for juniors called Junior Jumpstart. It's open to all, but it's at the end of junior year. So we do some specialized programming like that.
Great. Is there somewhere else specific for students to go if they want an on-campus job, or should they utilize CareerLink?
Yeah, so no, CareerLink's not as good for the on-campus job. Financial aid has some of them, the work-study jobs. We have not, WashU does not have a good mechanism for that. So what I would encourage students to do is just to go to the places they want to work and try and talk to the people. So students will go to, like if you want to work in the library, just to talk to them, or in the athletic complex. If you want to do research, we have the Office of Undergraduate Research, and that's more effective. But even there, I would talk to faculty that they're working with, who they know something about their research, maybe talk to them about their research, and then ask, is there some way I could get involved?
Well, and then that brings us back to the importance of networking skills.
Right. I always tell this story about how the students will just send out an email to the like 4 faculty members saying, hey, can I do research for you? That is a dog loser email. You know, what you need to do is go in and meet them, know something about it, and show a connection.
Yeah. Do career advisors ever communicate with a student's academic advisor about a student's job or internship search?
Yeah, we do. And we actually send them, you know, I was talking about these scores that we have. We kind of send that to the advisors. I would love to do more of that. And actually, I'm meeting with Jen Smith tomorrow to talk about more ways we can integrate that. I would love to get career advising more integrated with the academic advising. I mean, right now, and I'm preempting my answer to the last question, but we have all these great resources. And the problem is, unless your kid comes in to take advantage of them, they're not going to help them. And I've got no stick to make your kid come in. And the truth of the matter is, even you as a parent because I do this with my kids. I can't make my own kids always do this kind of stuff. And so it's difficult. And the more, and I think it's difficult for a number of reasons. Sometimes kids are scared, they're not sure, they feel like they're the only one left out. But I think just encouraging them, and I see students every day, I love talking to students, and I get a lot of students coming to me, they say, my parents, heard you talk, and they said I needed to come to talk to you. And it's clear that they're just doing it to get you off their back. I'm not proud, I'll take that. And then we can start working with them.
So we're going to ask one last question for the
Yeah.
evening. As a reminder, any questions we were not able to answer during this webinar will be addressed via email directly to the person who posed the question. Mark, thank you so much for the information you've shared tonight. What is one last piece of advice for families of WashU students?
Like I said, we've got just a boatload of great resources here. And students don't all take advantage of it. I invite every sophomore and every junior every year to come to focus groups with me. Most of them don't come, but I'll get a few, and I do like about 20 of them during the year. And it's a nice way to see where they are at. And so I'll ask about things like, how many of you know about road shows? And they'll be like, what's that? Or they'll say, you ought to think about having groups that are focused on outcomes. And I'll say, well, we do. It's the career interest group, and this is how you get involved. So, I mean, they're overwhelmed with information, and I get that. And I think you as parents, we have our parent and family guide. I'm just going to show it right here, which is also on our website. And kind of going through that and talking to your kids about it, they won't give you the benefit of letting you know that they're really listening, but I do think they retain it. And then they might start thinking about it. And that's, I think, part of the advantage of engaging them with them really early is you get them thinking and it builds up, and then eventually they're ready to do something.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mark, the information that you provided this evening was extremely helpful. I am incredibly confident that families of WashU students have learned quite a bit from your presentation. Families, we hope that you learned some great and valuable information this evening. So we ask that you stay tuned for our next webinar, a conversation about housing selection occurring on Monday, December 16th. You will be able to register for this webinar at families.woostel.edu. We'll see you then.